I just want to talk a little bit about Congressman Delgado and how he's shown time and again his dedication and commitment to legislation like the Clean Water for Rural America Act and the Direct Support for Communities Act, which could benefit our community and others like us in countless ways. I can't even emphasize how much we need this help. We, like so many of our neighboring municipalities, struggle with aging infrastructure, particularly water and sewer systems. And we know what needs to be done. We know that upgrades and overhauls are necessary, and we're ready to meet the challenge, but we lack the funding to make it happen. And here in Athens, we have seen a large increase in full-time residency since the COVID crisis, and we're thrilled to have new neighbors and renewed community vibrancy. But the increased stress on our already struggling infrastructure adds a level of urgency to these existing issues. And I'm so grateful to have Congressman Delgado in our corner fighting to help us meet the demands of modern life in a historic village. And so I'm beyond proud to introduce Congressman Antonio Delgado. Welcome, Congressman.
Is it morning or afternoon right now? This is the afternoon. I want to say good afternoon. It is good to be in Athens. It is good to be in the company of so many good people who care about our environment, who care about our future, who care about our waterways. So let me thank the mayor for the very kind words. Mayor Sarago, I really appreciate your leadership and look forward to continue to work alongside you in the months to come. I also want to acknowledge my friend Senator Henchy for her presence and her leadership. Julie Ty, thank you for your work with the New York League of Conservation Voters, spearheading so many important initiatives on our environment and water systems. And of course, Al Catalano, Builders Trades, New York. Thank you for your leadership in this space as well. It is good to be here to talk about the work that we're doing to invest in our infrastructure, invest in our wastewater management systems, invest in our water, in clean drinking water. We shouldn't really have to debate about clean drinking water. Seems pretty obvious. And yet, when you look at the age of a lot of our infrastructure, you look at the way some of the chemicals being deployed and used aren't properly regulated and overseen. Too many folks, too many communities, too many young people are exposed to potential harm. And it's not just a healthcare issue, it's an economic one. If you want to spur economic growth, you want to incentivize capital investment, you want to have strong piping, you want to have wastewater management systems, you want to be able to have small businesses be able to plug in to what's already available and modern. I just did a town hall up in Hoosick Falls, my 58th, earlier this week. If you know about Hoosick Falls, you know about PFAS contamination and what that community and its neighbor, Petersburg, has had to endure. I worked last year to get the PFAS Right to Know Act signed into law. We just reintroduced legislation earlier this year with Representative Pappas and with Senator Gillibrand to continue that fight to make sure that we are not allowing manufacturers who produce this chemical to discharge it into our waterways without any type of oversight. We're the wealthiest country in the world, most powerful country in the world, and yet we have folks going without clean water. We have communities like Callicoon in Sullivan County with piping that goes back to 1905. I had a gentleman tell me there that some of the piping is wood. Surprised me to hear that. Bridges that are nearly 100 years old. It's unacceptable, not to mention the lack of broadband that too many of our communities are facing. If we're going to invest in our future, we're going to build in our future and make sure that everybody, no matter where you start in life, no matter your zip code, no matter how rural, has a fair shot at the dream, the American dream, or at upward mobility, we got to have a level playing field from the start. Now, Thursday morning at about 5 a.m., we stood up all night. We finally passed out of the Transportation Infrastructure Committee the components of two bills that will be included in the American Jobs Act. The Water Quality Protection and Job Creation Act of 2021 and the Invest in America Act. These bills would modernize our roads, bridges, highways, rail, transit, and water systems. They improve quality of life, small businesses they support, they create good paying jobs, tackle the climate crisis, and make our nation more competitive in the global marketplace. 4 of my bills that we introduced were included in that package. They focused on increasing bus transit routes for our rural communities, growing out broadband, investing in water sewer systems, and so much more. Matter of fact, Hyde Park, another community I visited recently, they're trying to figure out how they can use investment dollars to redo their water system. So whether it's in Athens or whether it's in Hyde Park or whether it's in Callicoon, all 11 counties in my district, which by the way is the 8th most rural congressional district in the entire country, bigger than Connecticut and Rhode Island combined. We're talking 435 congressional seats. It's number 8. And here's the issue. A lot of our rural communities for a very long time have been left behind. We get overlooked. So it's important that we start really carving out funding and resources for our rural communities to make sure that they can keep up and sustain themselves for the foreseeable future. That's why my Direct Support for Communities Act, which was included in the American Rescue Plan, ensures that every single locality, irrespective of population size, gets direct federal relief. Over $400 million is coming to local governments all across New York 19, and they can use this funding for broadband, use this funding for workforce development programs, for infrastructure, for our water systems, and keeping our water clean. I do want to highlight one important bill before I turn it over to my friend Senator Hinchy. This is the Clean Water the Clean Water for Rural America Act. This bill was included as well in the infrastructure package that I referenced earlier. Very, very important legislation that increases funding for technical assistance grants within the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, providing critical support for upstate communities like Athens to access Clean Water Act programs. It's a very, very important piece there that we hope to see continue on through and ultimately be included in the American Jobs Plan. I do want to also flag, lastly, there were a number of projects that were included that are going to be hopefully a part of the American Rescue Plan as well. Schoharie, for example, is going to get money to replace, well, hopefully, a 100-year-old bridge that prevents a 14-mile detour. Newports and Gardner in Sullivan County, in Ulster County, are going to get money to repave Route 299. There's funding going to Oneonta to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve air quality. Funding in Kingston to connect affordable and senior housing complexes. A lot of money, a lot of support, a lot of aid going to our rural communities. And we have to do a lot more to make sure we build for our future right here in Athens and all across New York 19 and upstate New York. So we're excited about the work we're doing. We feel good. Still got a long road ahead here to make sure we get this stuff done. But it is moving in the right direction. And I want to make sure that we keep the energy up and keep pushing ahead. And with that, I want to thank all of you for coming. And now I'd like to introduce my friend, a leader on environment and clean water, and somebody who I have come to admire immensely, Senator Hinchy.
Thank you. I wasn't going to be able to solve that. job. Good job.
A little shorter than I. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Congressman Delgado, thank you for bringing us all together to talk about this incredibly important issue that we are facing all across your district, across my district, and across upstate New York. For those who don't know, I'm Senator Michelle Hinchy. I represent, similar to the Congressman, the most rural district in the Senate Majority Conference. We have 5 counties, all of Montgomery County and Greene County, and large portions of Ulster, Albany, and Schenectady counties. And these are challenges, these infrastructure challenges are ones that we are facing across all of those counties. I am so glad to be here today to be a partner for you, Congressman. I know you share with us a deep love and commitment to the issues in upstate New York, making sure that we are bringing our communities into the 21st century. Many of the things that we are talking about today are effectively fundamental rights, and we still struggle for them here in upstate. From access to clean water, to access to broadband, to keeping our roads safe. These are nonpartisan issues, and ones that all of us should be supporting and doing everything that we can to make sure that we have equity in our upstate communities. As the Congressman mentioned, some of the infrastructure here is built with wood. We actually hear that a lot, so it's less surprising to me at this point. We have infrastructure that is over 100 years old, all across upstate New York, and our communities, our small municipalities, don't have the funds to fix it. This infrastructure is built with lead, it's degrading, it's falling apart, and we have to do better. We have growing storms due to the climate crisis that are quite literally washing away roads and taking water infrastructure with them, let alone leaving people stranded for days, weeks at a time. We had a road in Jewett that washed away in the Christmas storm that is going to be tons of money in redevelopment. In New Baltimore, they're having a water crisis because that same storm took that piping with it, let alone what that's doing downstream to communities and to the waterways. But we have to help our communities make sure that we are insulated for the long term as these storms continue to get stronger and more frequent. COVID has also laid bare the gross inequities across infrastructure very clearly, and I'd be remiss if we didn't talk for a moment about broadband. Reliable access to broadband, high-speed broadband, is a right, or is basically a right. It is no longer a luxury. We have seen that through this pandemic. We've had families who had to decide to take their child to a library to do their schoolwork or go to work themselves. We've had people not able to check their bank accounts when they're told not to go into banks, and people unable to work from home. That's why I so very much appreciate all of the legislation that Congressman Delgado has put forward, working to secure federal funding for clean water grants, for road improvements, and champion ways to make broadband build-out more efficient and affordable. I'm proud to work hand in hand with him on these issues so that our state and our federal governments are in lockstep to provide real support to communities that have historically been left behind. At the state level, that's why I've introduced the Safe Water Infrastructure Action Program, which is a way to give municipalities, in a similar way through CHIPS funding, a regular yearly allocated funding stream through the state budget so that they can continually upgrade and repair water infrastructure instead of waiting for a crisis and applying for loans or grants that may take years to get when that crisis is immediate. That's why I'm proud that we've secured record funding for our roads in this year's budget. And we were just talking about where some of that funding is going to go to here in Greene County, and I'm incredibly excited to see that already put to good use. And I'm proud also that we just this week passed my legislation to help small broadband providers bring reliable internet access to our more rural communities by making it more affordable to build out that infrastructure for the last mile. These state and federal investments not only solve real problems in our communities, but they stimulate the economy by creating good local jobs in each of these critical modernization areas. We need to bring all of upstate New York into the 21st century, and we can do that, and we need to do that by investing in our infrastructure. Improving our roads and increasing broadband help to make our communities more attractive for tourism and development, business development, and we have a chance to really address these challenges head on. And I'm proud to be here today fighting alongside Congressman Delgado and so many of our partners in many of these advocacy spaces to ensure that we are delivering on all of these fronts to make life easier, better, and safer for those in our rural communities and across upstate New York. I have the pleasure today of introducing Julie Tai, who, as we talk about the infrastructure that we have in the climate crisis, as we said, these are only going to get significantly worse, and we have to put in the time, the money, the energy, and the effort now to make sure that we are not rebuilding the wheel every single time. We want to make sure that our roads are safe and reliable, and that our water infrastructure is here for the long term. So these storms are going to be a challenge for us, but if we put in the work, we raise the money, and we fight for our communities now, we'll be able to make sure that all across upstate New York, people can live with dignity and safely. So thank you very much, and Julie, I want to turn it over to you.
It's so nice to be here. Good afternoon. I think we decided this afternoon. My name is Julie Tai. I'm president of the New York Conservation Voters, and I think it's especially fitting that we are here along the Hudson River, which we know is requires so much protection. It requires investment in order to keep it and safe and healthy for everyone to use. We're happy to be here with our partners, Congressman Delgado, Senator Hinchey, Mayor, our friends in labor, and others, to reiterate the importance of clean water in particular and investing in transportation and infrastructure. We've been working with Congressman Delgado since before he was even elected, and he's had a deep commitment to the environment, and he knows that protecting our water and providing clean transportation and our climate recovery go hand in glove with our economic recovery, and we need to take action, and we need to take action this year. I'm tired of talking about infrastructure. It's time to actually put money into infrastructure. And now we're seeing that happen. He's putting his commitments into action by introducing bills like we just heard about, in particular the Clean Water for Rural America Act, and funding provided for rural transportation, which we heard is so critical in these upstate communities. Safe drinking water is a right in all of our communities. As we've heard, New York is an old state and we have old infrastructure. Infrastructure that was built in many cases with significant funding from the federal government, and it breaks down. We hear about it all the time. There are leaks. There's new chemicals that we're dealing with. We in New York did a study in about 2008 that said that about $38 billion was needed to help our communities to make our infrastructure for drinking water alone be upgraded, and another $20 billion for wastewater. There's a lot of need, and that was before we were aware of contaminants like PFAS. And our communities need help. We need the federal government to help. The American Jobs Plan is proposed to invest $58 billion through existing programs like the Clean Water Revolving Fund to upgrade drinking water and wastewater systems across the country, to support clean water infrastructure in rural communities like here in Greene County and in Athens specifically, and investing in PFAS remediation in drinking water and rural wastewater systems. It also proposes $85 billion investment in public transportation so that we can help to expand that access to transportation, because we know our trains need to be fixed to get folks places on time, and to help reduce congestion, which I know is not so much of an issue here, but is very much a problem downstate. As we have heard already, the Clean Water for Rural America Act will increase technical assistance grants for communities to upgrade their small wastewater systems. Clean water is one of our top priorities because everybody deserves access to water that is safe and free of hazardous toxins. Repairing water systems is especially important in this district, where many communities, including Hoosick Falls, just north of here, have dealt with emerging contaminants in their water supply for decades. And unfortunately, the communities that are burdened with contaminated drinking water or leaky pipes are often the least able to afford to fix it. So we need to get this funding, and we need to get it now. They can help to make sure that we have clean drinking water available for all. We know that these bills will help to improve water quality while also creating good-paying green jobs. We need these bills in order to achieve President Biden's American Jobs Plan. We also need to get the lead out of our drinking water, which has been one of our longtime priorities. The American Jobs Plan commits to a $45 billion investment in upgrading lead service lines. And we need to make sure that we're also investing in fixing our lead fixtures and installing filter stations at schools to ensure that our children are protected. This is something that New York has been a leader in, and just this week, Senator Hinchey and many of her colleagues, the legislature passed a bill to strengthen our lead drinking water standards in public school and to fully pay for it using clean water infrastructure funds. But now is the time for others to lead and to clean up our drinking. We need a bold infrastructure bill that will deliver clean water, support good jobs, and invest in rural and disadvantaged communities. That's why we're here to support the Clean Water for Rural America Act and help to get the American Jobs Plan done this year. So thank you so much to Congressman Delgado for all that you're doing to bring attention to all these issues, to fight for funding, to bring it back here to Congressional District 19, Senator Hinchey for all of your support and what you're doing here in the state. And I am particularly pleased to introduce our friend, Al Catalano, who is the Executive Director of the New York State Building Trades. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Al Catalano. I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Building and Construction Trade Council. We represent over 200,000 union construction workers throughout the state, and also here on behalf of our President, Gary LaBarra. So first of all, I want to have a thank you to Representative Delgado for bringing the issue of rebuilding our nation's infrastructure home to Athens and to our region, and especially to the issue of clean drinking water. If our nation is to reclaim the position of leading the way and setting the standard of a strong, functioning democracy, then we need our basic infrastructure to be second to none. And that begins with life-sustaining, clean drinking water. And fundamental to building and rebuilding our infrastructure, we need the highly skilled and safe working union members of our local building trades councils. Not only do these highly skilled workers benefit from the work they perform, but our communities benefit too. The highly skilled union workers actually train the next generation of local workers who are on-the-job union apprentice programs. So in short, these are not only much-needed clean water infrastructure projects, this can be a pipeline to the middle class for many of our underserved communities. Thank you.
All right. Any questions?
Yes, I'm curious, can you go over again, you talked about the $400 million for the local governments versus the money in the American Jobs Plan for clean water? Like, I know those are separate.
Two separate
right?
issues.
Okay.
So the $400 million that's going to local governments, that was a part of the American Rescue Plan. My Direct Support for Communities Act, which was included in that, was tied to that effort. So you think about, all the counties in the district, all the localities, all the small towns are getting direct federal dollars, and that money can be used for infrastructure, can be used for broadband, can be used to invest in wastewater management systems. Then there's the work we're doing now, and the vehicle hopefully is going to be the American Jobs Plan, where we're focusing on securing more funding access for our local towns and municipalities to take on infrastructure projects in the name of achieving clean drinking water and sustainable economic development. Two separate issues.
So the American Jobs Plan, what are your thoughts on how that's moving and the support for it? I mean, is this...
Well, there's a lot of support for investment in infrastructure. There's been a lot of support for a very long time across the political spectrum. So I think, in terms of our ability to get something done, as Julie pointed out, this year, now's the time to do it. We have a lot of momentum building. I will say, too, that in D.C. there is robust, back and forth, which I think speaks to the saliency, the importance of this issue, the recognition from all leaders across the political aisle of the spectrum that, people on the ground, people back home, are waiting for solutions now. The talk is fine, but now let's get to action. Anything else? Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.